Minau Gejibago Shig Kakina. Good morning, everyone. Let me start by acknowledging that we are on traditional, unsurrendered Algonquin territory. Thank you, elders, for your words. Thank you to the commissioners for your tireless work and your commitment to unearthing these important truths. And thank you to the people featured in the videos. Your strength is an example and an inspiration to us all. This is an important day, and one that is long, long overdue. Today, I am humbled and grateful to receive this report as we conclude one chapter of this painful story. It's a story unimaginable to most Canadians, and yet, for too many, is a heartbreaking reality. Many of you have spent the last few years courageously speaking of your loss and reliving incredible pain. To all those who spoke up and gave such powerful testimony, I want to thank you deeply for your bravery, and I hope that today you can take a new step in your long journey of healing. And all those who chose to not speak up, thank you for carrying such strength and choosing your own time and your own choices with whom to share. Aujourd'hui, je suis très reconnaissant de recevoir ce rapport.
I am very grateful to receive this report as we're closing one chapter in this painful history. This is a history which is difficult to imagine for most Canadians, but for many people, it's their heart-wrenching reality. Over the last few years, there are many interviewees who have talked courageously about their losses, and they've had to relive these extremely painful experiences. For all of you who have chosen to express yourselves and who've given powerful testimonies, I want to sincerely thank you for showing such courage, and I hope that today you'll be able to take another step forward along this long path of healing.
For many decades, Indigenous women and girls across Canada have disappeared, suffered violence, or been killed, and our justice system has failed them. Sadly, this is not simply a relic of our past. To this day, the safety, security, and dignity of Indigenous mothers, daughters, sisters, and friends are routinely threatened. Time and again, we have heard of their disappearance, violence, or even death being labeled low priority or ignored. We have heard of their human rights being consistently and systematically violated. It is shameful, it is absolutely unacceptable, and it must end. For far too many years, Indigenous families, communities, and organizations have urged the Government of Canada to take action and call a national inquiry. When we took office, we knew that the status quo for Indigenous women and girls in this country had to change. So over the past few years, we have undertaken the most ambitious and comprehensive inquiry in this country's history, the first truly national inquiry ever conducted in Canada in partnership with provinces and territories. Thousands of family members and survivors came forward to share their truths at hearings and statement gatherings across the country. We heard from knowledge keepers, experts, officials, and many shared their truths through art. There were stories of anger, sadness, and deep frustration. And I know this has been a very, very difficult process for everyone involved. The process has been long, and I can only imagine how awful it has been to relive such intense pain. So to the families and survivors here today, and to those watching or listening at home, I want you to know that this report is not the end. The work of the commissioners, the stories they have collected, and the calls for justice they have put forward will not be placed on a shelf to collect dust. I know and you know that we need to fix the way things work in this country. We must continue to decolonize our existing structures, and the racism, sexism, and economic inequality that has allowed such violence against Indigenous women and girls to prevail must be eradicated. We have begun some of this important work already. We're working with Indigenous communities to improve health and wellness by investing in essential infrastructure, including housing, and eliminating boil water advisories. We're also working together to better support the inherent jurisdiction of Indigenous peoples in areas like education, governance, and child and family services. And we just recently introduced legislation to help ensure the survival and revival of Indigenous languages. But we know there is much, much more left to do. And today is one more step on our path to reconciliation. We will conduct a thorough review of this report, and we will develop and implement a national action plan to address violence against Indigenous women, girls, and LGBTQ and Two-Spirit people. We will work with Indigenous partners to determine next steps, and we will include the perspectives and full participation of Indigenous women and girls. We will also include the voices of Indigenous LGBTQ and Two-Spirit people with lived experience, as well as the family members of victims and survivors of violence. The Commission has outlined a way forward, and you have my word that my government will turn the inquiry's call for justice into real, meaningful, Indigenous-led action. Nous allons examiner le rapport en profondeur et nous allons
We're going to
développer
examine the
et
report
mettre
in
en
detail,
œuvre
and we will develop and implement a national action plan to end violence against Indigenous women and girls, and also the 2S LGBTQ persons. And we're going to work with our Indigenous partners in order to determine the next steps. We're going to include the perspectives of Indigenous women and girls and encourage them to fully participate. We're also going to take account of the voices of 2S LGBTQ persons who have lived experience, and also the members of families and victims and survivors of violence. The Commission has shown us the path forward, and I give you my word that we will certainly follow up on the calls to justice that are announced in the inquiry report, and we will take specific, coherent steps which are Indigenous-led steps.
Many people, non-Indigenous and Indigenous, many institutions will find this day, this report, these truths difficult, challenging, and uncomfortable. This is an uncomfortable day for Canada, but it is an essential day. We need to recognize the truths presented here, the truths you carry, and the future you have reached out your hands to build alongside all Canadians. We take this day as an essential day in the history and the future of this country, and we will walk forward together. I refuse to let our present and our future mirror our past. To the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls of Canada, to their families and to survivors, we have failed you, but we will fail you no longer. In the days ahead, let us walk forward together as partners, hand in hand, as we right these wrongs and seek justice for the Indigenous people of Canada. Thank you. Merci. Miigwech.